Hello guys! Ready to start with our tests? I'm really excited. Let's see what is waiting for us from now on. Well, the first thing we're gonna do today is we're gonna install the Theme Sniffer plugin as recommended by WordPress. This plugin can now be found in the repository, so let's do the installation normally. There you go. I click here to go to its homepage. The first thing I want to tell you is that your plugin might look a little different. I've noticed that the developer makes some changes from time to time, so don't worry about it. The important thing is to understand what is important to test. So, how does it work? Well, I have to select the theme here. Select the type of test you want to run, the minimum PHP version your theme will support, and click here on this button, Go. The first type of test is mandatory. Here it will check all the required rules that your theme has to follow. Errors in red have to be fixed, okay? Warnings can be fixed manually, but they are not crucial for the theme to be accepted. But always pay attention to the type of warning you get, okay? Let's run our theme. Well, I have good news and bad news too. As far as I can tell, we got one error related to the README file here below. We're gonna create this file later in the course. And a lot of warnings. Notice here that the files we copied from one of the native themes generated some warnings. So this was not a problem generated by us, right? Don't be so sure about that, guys. I could believe that all this wouldn't be cause for alarm. With regard to the native themes, let's think a little. The native themes belong to WordPress, right? Which means that they, and also WooCommerce files, have been tested before being approved. If they are generating warnings, the problem is not ours. Well, it's not quite so simple. I've already talked about this situation in another section of this course. It turns out that all the files that are within our theme are our responsibility. So it doesn't matter if the WordPress or WooCommerce developers don't do their homework. If you choose to use their code within your theme, the problem is now yours. I realized that shortly before I started creating this course, when I tried to submit this theme for review. The first review they did pointed out several errors and warnings coming from third-party files. By arguing and questioning the review team, they answered that the files were my responsibility since they were within my theme. Actually, it's quite interesting because if I run a native theme here, let's see. Look, it also generates a lot of warnings. So for now, I'll leave these errors and warnings without any corrections, okay? All problems will be fixed after the theme is submitted for review. You'll be able to follow the whole review process on the link I will leave at the end of the section of this course. Well, let's move on. If you want to be more accurate, you may want to perform these other tests. You have the coding standards tests, best practices tests, documentation standard tests, and tests for submitting your theme to WordPress VIP, which is another WordPress premium themes platform, and we'll be not talking about it. These tests are optional. You'll see that surely we'll have one error or two when we run them. See? A lot of errors coming up. But I'm not going to be so scared, at least not now. If I try one of the native themes, you'll see the same pattern going on. Look at this. Looks like we are in good company. Or not. Okay, let's do some more tests. The second plugin WordPress recommends is called Theme Check. This plugin is essential and will test the structure of the theme as a whole. Let's install it then. It works pretty much the same way here. I choose the theme here and click this button. For example, let's choose 2019. See? The theme has passed all the tests. Let's see what happens to ours. Well, we haven't had any luck yet. Let's see what we must fix. The messages are divided into categories. We have warnings, which need to be fixed. Required, also need to be fixed. Recommended, which you may or may not fix. This will depend on the type of recommendation. You have to read to see if it makes sense for your theme. And info, which are also things that you can or cannot fix. It will also depend on your theme. Well, up here, you're seeing a first warning coming up. It's up here because it's not necessarily related to the theme, but to the installation as a whole. Here is telling me that I should test the theme with the WordPress debug mode enabled. Enable debug mode as soon as you start creating the theme. I'm just doing it now, as always, for teaching purposes. It's pretty easy to do that. You open up your wp-config.php file. And here at the end of the file, where you have this constant wp_debug, you set the value to true. That's it, the error is gone. Now we can open the theme in the front end and see if any error messages will show up. The goal is that you have this enabled from the beginning to correct any problems as soon as they arise. In the case of our theme, I know from tests I made beforehand that there's nothing wrong with it. Now we still have several errors that we will be forced to correct. A part of them I left here on purpose. They will not affect very much those who are not following this section of the course, but I had to leave it for the end because it will make more sense to explain everything at once. The first error I get here is related to the text domain. It is saying that text domain is missing from your style.css header. And I believe I know the reason. Let's open up our style.css file. It turns out that we misspelled text domain here in this file. So please correct these two in your file, okay? Let's run the check once again. Okay, it's gone. Next, I have a lot of errors here related to CSS classes that I don't have in this theme. Those are classes that every theme has to implement. Most of them are related to the images in the body of the theme. If I click here on this link, I'll be taken to a codex page where there's a basic implementation of these classes. So now it's very easy. I'm gonna copy all these classes, open up my CSS file. Let's look for a place here. And paste them into my CSS file here at this point. And later, I will have to match the CSS to my content. It may be that not everything makes sense in my theme, so later I'll have to review this code, okay? But for now, it helps me a lot if I just copy and paste everything. Well, I still have this class that is missing. What can I do to solve this? I'm gonna just use a code snippet that I have prepared ahead of time for this lesson, and I'm just gonna paste it right below this previous code that I copied. This is very simple CSS, and we can have access to it when you download the material for this class, okay? Let's repeat the test. Well, this little problem here is only for macOS users. I can run a very simple command here on the terminal and delete these hidden files. Or I can do something pretty much simple, that is copy the theme folder and then open that folder on a computer with another operating system, Windows or Linux for example. There in the other operating system, I can see these hidden files and just delete them easily. That's what I'm gonna do before I send the theme for review. And now, this problem here is quite easy to solve. Just copy this snippet here and paste it here in functions.php. And finally, we have all the most important problems solved. At least we can see this wonderful green color now. Great. We only have a few recommended things here. First one are things that will not be implemented in the theme because we are not forced to implement features we don't want in the theme. And this last one here will be corrected later on. Although it's listed as recommended here, you won't be able to pass the test if you don't have a readme.txt file along with the theme. So it should be listed as required, in fact. The later one is pretty easy to solve too. Let's look for this term here inside the function.php file of the 2019 theme. And we're going to copy this piece of code here inside the function that enqueues our files. This piece of code adds the comment script to the theme, but only on pages where the comment form is used. There you go! For now, that's the best we can do to test our theme. In the next lecture, I'll come back with another challenge. So, until then.